What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. Just notes that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total. And the offer ends at the end of March, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, as far as Tesla's going, as of right now, we're holding this trend line right over here. We have this blue trend line of support that's been holding us up since October. This morning, Tesla is dipping just a little bit. It's only down about 1%, which isn't too bad. We were expecting it to kind of dip a little bit. And I said to watch and see if we can try to hold this trend line to slowly uptrend. As long as we hold this blue trend line of support, we will continue this uptrend, but we'll see if this lasts or not. So I'll talk more about this in the next couple of minutes. But just know a couple of things. So Mr. President Trump, he has been trying to halt the flow of funding for EV charging from two programs that Tesla's benefited from. That is some big news that's come out. That is why Tesla saw a little bit of a dip going into yesterday, not to mention some more talk about the investigation that's going on from the NHTSA. So that's part of why we saw this little like sell off. And I'm still seeing a lot of headlines that are talking about this. But at the same time, there was some good news that's also come out. There's news about how at the same time, Piper Sandler has a very, very nice view of Tesla. They're very, very optimistic about the Optimus humanoid robots and other factors just like that. They also believe that under the next administration, there's going to be benefits under Trump's administration at the same time, such as the fact that AI is not going to be regulated as strictly, which is going to give Tesla a lot more benefits and abilities to essentially approve and get and release an FSD, not just a beta, but a new autonomous technology that's going to be very big for them, at least moving forward. So mixed views so far. There's going to be things that come out under this administration that aren't that great. Other things will be a lot better. So it's very mixed for now. And as a result, although Tesla is dipping just a bit, we're still holding this support. Now, there's also been this big news that's come out that Trump has also announced the private sector is going to receive about $500 billion of investment in AI infrastructure. Why is this important? It's because when you look at the way AI is being launched, okay, we're starting to see a big demand for specialized data centers that enable tech companies to link thousands of chips together in clusters. And they're going to need a lot of electricity and such to make that happen. So that's what Trump was saying. He's once again in favor of funding them. And we're going to be looking for a lot more US power consumption rising. Because of this, and a lot more investments to be made in this to help really power these data centers. So that's some big news that's been coming out. This is going to help with the development of AI. So this is a good piece of news, at least for some companies. So I just want to call that out. This is also what's coming out. This is a pretty big piece of news. Anyways, for the broader markets, today is Wednesday, January 22nd. We had some mortgage data coming out in the morning. It's all very minor. Besides that, we have the Red Book reports at 8:55 a.m., which is still quite minor. Then we just have a bunch of bill auctions and bond auctions at 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. Look for some volatility then, but it's nothing too crazy. For earnings, I talked about Netflix yesterday already. They absolutely crushed it with their earnings, gaining 302 million subscribers in total, and they gained about 19 million just for the fourth quarter. And they beat on EPS and revenue and raised guidance after a nice share repurchase program. So that's some good news for them. And then there's also news that P&G also announced earnings. They ended up beating estimates when it comes to EPS and revenue, and they reiterated their forecast. So they beat on EPS with $1.88. Revenue is at 21.8 billion, above expectations for everything. They reiterated the same guidance as before, which is still bullish. So good news for them. Johnson & Johnson also announced their earnings. They did relatively well. If you guys look at the numbers, sales are up 5.3%. We saw a nice beat in their revenue overall at about $22.5 billion. And we also saw their EPS at $1.41. That is technically not too bad. Or I'm sorry, the adjusted one's at $2.04. So that's actually the previous one I was talking about. That is technically above expectations. So good guidance. You guys can see the guidance right over here. That's up about 0.5 to 1.5% from 2024. And their EPS was decent. So good news for them. That's why the share price is up. Just wanted to call that out. One last thing is that Apple did see quite a bit of downside after we got some bad news involving their Chinese sales, while simultaneously there was a price downgrade from JP Morgan. Besides that, the market is still pushing to all-time highs. Netflix is also up like crazy after earnings have come out. And besides that, United Airlines also did relatively well. That's excuse me, that's all I'm seeing on the news. There's nothing else that's too crazy. Let's just focus on the charts from this point on. So Tesla's starting off on a weekend. It is possible to get some kind of dip, but the question is, as long as we close and end up holding above this trend line, we're going to be fine. So look for a small dip to about that 413 or so area. We could be dipping a little bit more. Even if we do get a little bit below the trend line, that's okay. But we need to eventually reclaim this and continue to uptrend like this, and eventually try to hold this trend line over like the more longer term to form a nice accumulation. That's what I want to see from Tesla. Despite the fact that there's a little weakness right now, it could be dipping a little bit more towards 415 to 413. Even if we touch the low from yesterday again, we need to eventually get bought back up. And we need to see buyers defend this blue trend line for us to remain bullish. If we close below 413 to 410, there's going to be a risk of us dumping back down to 402 or below. If we do dip a bit and get bought back up, we want to hold this trend line around 420. As long as we dip and balance and hold this trend line, we will continue to uptrend towards these higher levels. So please keep that in mind. That's going to be very key for how we end up moving, at least as time goes on. As far as SPY is going, exactly as predicted, I said that we're going to likely see this zone being tested right over here, and we're going to be getting very close to all-time highs. We'll still be watching to see how this ends up reacting. We're entering what's known as a chop zone, and there's a gap below, so to be a little bit careful with this. Might go a little higher, but then watch this chop zone to see if we break out higher or not. But we're entering this zone where we tend to see a lot of chop here, so watch this for some time. And if we break 608, we're going to be expecting the 610s. So we could be making new all-time highs if we do break that, but I don't think we're just going to break 608 that easily. We might see a little chop first before anything else. So we're in this zone of resistance near the all-time high. I think we push a little bit more. We might see some consolidation. We'll see if we break out higher or not. So be careful. If SPY breaks 608, by the way, we're going to remain bullish looking for the 610s. If we lose 603, this could be dipping back down to 600 flat, so just keep that in mind. But we're entering this chop, so just be a little bit careful. For the QQQ, we're looking bullish. We're at this 530 resistance. If we break this, we're looking for essentially an imbalance fill for 533, then 535 is our targets. Overall, though, it is looking a bit more bullish, and I think there's a good chance we try to continue this pump. So with that being said, I think that there's a very, very good chance we try to continue. If we end up churning south and we end up losing support at 528, we're looking for this big dip to about 527 and then 525. But my view is that this is going to be pushing for 530. If that breaks, we go a little higher for 533, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get near 530 to 533. So look for a bit more upside on the QQQ, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. Looking at the IWM Russell 2000, we're looking at 230s or resistance. If we break this, we're looking for 232. If we turn here, we're looking for essentially 228. I do favor this is going to consolidate. Maybe try to push a little bit more into the 230s, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not. So watch that very closely. ES is looking a bit more bullish. We're looking for this imbalance fill, so it could push a little bit more to about 61.35. But then we're entering this chop zone, which is where it's seen a lot of sideways price action. So we'll see what this leads to. But if anything, I think that ES pushes a little bit more into this zone before we see some chop up here around the 61.30s. And then we'll see if we get a rejection or not. So it should be pushing a bit more. NQ is approaching my 22,000 target. I did call that out. If we hold above that, looking for 22,100 as a potential target. I think it pushes a little bit more to 22,000. We'll see if we get a rejection or not near that. So it's going to be a tough resistance, but I do expect us to kind of push a little bit more closer to that resistance. So look for a small push upon open, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. Bitcoin pumped very nicely. It's dipping again. We need to see this hold at least 102,000. As long as that could hold, we could try to rebound again. If we lose 102,000, we dip lower, so give this some time to develop. So we'll see how things end up going. For Nvda is looking bullish. We called out 145 in my video yesterday. That's where we're currently at. If we could break this, we could be forming like a cup and handle, and then we're going to be looking for an attempt to get into the 150s. I see potential for us to try to continue to push, especially after the AI news that came out under Trump's administration. So we're in a much larger range right now, right? If you look at the last couple of weeks, but this is still bullish. Might see a small dip here before it tries to continue to push. If we break the 145s, we're looking for 150s our target. If we lose 142, we're looking for 140s our target. But I think this favors a small dip and a bounce as the most likely possibility. Once again, for Tesla, we're watching this trend line of support. We could be dipping towards this, and we'll see if we continue to uptrend off of that. Aapl Still looks a little bit lackluster. We got to try to hold 220. If we lose 220, we dip lower towards like 217. I want to see it hold 220 to bounce for 225. So we're going to be watching to see if this holds. As long as this holds, we could rebound. So give this the time it needs. For a few more factors out there, we have coin. Coin has struggled to break 300, so it's dipping. So we're going to be looking for a test of 283, if not 276, if that fails. For a small dip here, and we'll see if we bounce or not. Look for a little bit of downside to start things off. Amazon's looking bullish, looking for 232 as our target. If we break this, 235 is coming. If it does not hold 230, though, we could be dipping back down to about 228. I'm hoping we try to hold above 233. It's going to be a tough resistance. So we'll see if Amazon can break this or not. So we'll look for a small push to 233, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. Meta has an inverse head and shoulders like structure. There's like a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. That could favor more upside. As long as we don't end up losing this 615 area, we're favoring a push into the 630s. Microsoft is looking bullish. We have a nice double bottom like structure. If we end up losing 433, we're looking for a dip back down to 428. As long as we're above 430, 435, we're looking for 440 as our target. Overall, it's looking a bit more bullish. Google's looking promising. We need to break 202 to really start pushing, though. If we break 202, this will continue to push for like 205, then 210. But we'll see if we break that or not. We're still in this range technically, so give it some time. Anyways, that is it for my video. I thank you all so much for listening. Tesla is a little bit lackluster again. Once again, guys, there was some negative news that came out from yesterday. It's still affecting us, but we're still holding the trend line of support. So as long as you hold this blue trend line, we could continue to uptrend. If Tesla does not hold 410, if we struggle, it's going to not be the best of signs. So give it some time. Tesla's a stock that sometimes takes time to develop, so we'll just wait it out. And if we can't hold 410, then yes, we could turn towards like 402 or below as there's some weakness. But as of right now, we haven't really lost critical support. We're riding this up. So I'm not officially like really bearish or anything. Technically, it's bullish. We're still on an uptrend as long as this trend line holds. So we'll see if it holds or not. Anyways, thank you for listening. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you guys in a couple of hours for another update, and peace out.